Good morning, or can I say good evening or good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world. It's a pleasure to have you here with us in this hopefully going to be a very interesting panel discussion about building the infrastructure that we need. I'm truly honored to be in the presence of our distinguished panelists, and I'd like to introduce them to you. We have His Excellency Dr. Adnan Amin, former Director General of IRENA and the Global Council Chair of SDG 7. We have as well Her Excellency Dr. Aisha bin Bishr, former Director General of Smart Dubai and Global Council Chair for SDG 11. Your Excellencies, thank you for being here. It's an honor to have you here with us. And I'd like to start with a question for both of you. What role did the SDGs Global Councils play in facilitating and achieving the SDGs? I hope, Dr. Adnan, you don't mind, but I'd like to start with Dr. Aisha bin Bishr. Ladies first.
Thank you, Imam, for having us, Malik, for having us here. The world is becoming increasingly urbanized. During the past decade, more than half the world's population has been living in cities, and that share is projected to rise to 60% by 2030. With more than 80% of the global GDP generated in cities, urbanization can contribute to sustainable growth if managed well by increasing productivity, allowing innovation and new ideas to emerge. However, cities also consume 2/3 of global energy consumption and account for more than 70% of greenhouse gas emission. The impact also of COVID-19 has been most devastating in poor and densely populated urban areas, especially for the 1 billion people living in informal settlement and slums worldwide, where overcrowding also make it difficult to follow recommended measures such as social distancing and self-isolation. Many cities around the world are facing acute challenges in managing rapid urbanization, from ensuring adequate housing and infrastructure to support growing populations, to confronting the environmental impact of urban sprawl, to reducing vulnerability to disasters. And as you all know, and as part of the UAE's effort to accelerate the implementation and increase the worldwide impact of the SDGs, the country has established the global councils on SDGs to be unique network for decision makers from public and private sectors, non-government organizations, and academia who are working together to share cutting-edge practices, discuss the creative implementation of the SDGs, and build a new partnership between countries and organizations. In line with that, and to further highlight the importance of cities, the SDG 11 Global Councils was formed to formulate pragmatic, multi-stakeholders, widely applicable SDGs solutions for cities, and to implement selective pilot initiatives by utilizing the formulated framework. The Council continues to strive to find innovative solutions for SDG 11 implementation, and the aim is to provide actionable insights, propose policies, develop technological solutions, and mobilize resources to drive progress towards our goals.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So if I move to Your Excellency, Dr. Adnan, if I ask you the same question.
Thank you, Malik. And let me start by saying I was really honored to chair the SDG 7 Global Council. And I have to pay tribute to the vision of the founders of the World Government Summit and its leaders for establishing this, and also the convening power of the World Government Summit, because we were able to bring together an extraordinary range of people to discuss the future of energy and SDG 7. And this included large corporations, SMEs, NGOs, scientific actors, international organizations, to discuss what the key challenges are, launch the initiatives that can make a difference, and to analyze where we are going as a world in order we can meet the SDGs in the coming time. And we've had a lot of discussion on that already. We looked at a number of things. For example, energy poverty is still a critical issue. There are almost 1 billion people without access to modern energy services. It cripples their lives. And we discussed the possibilities of business models for off-grid electrification and mini-grids. And we had some very interesting startups and NGOs working with us on that. As a result of that, we've seen a multiplication of platforms for pay-as-you-go solar in African countries that has proliferated throughout the African countries. We have measurable metrics in terms of successes of electrification, rural electrification with off-grid capabilities. But the most exciting thing has been the mini-grid application, and with mini-grids achieving a business case in more and more countries, and you can electrify small towns of up to 20, 30,000 people with mini-grids and solar and batteries in an affordable way when we know that the grid infrastructure is not going to reach. So this is changing people's lives, and many of those actors involved in the council are part of this. We discussed a very important issue, which was the electrification of rural health centers, especially in Africa and Asia. It's a huge problem because these health centers don't have refrigeration for vaccines. They don't have power for sanitization of operating instruments and for operating theaters. And there was a discussion about how off-grid solar could potentially be a solution to this. And I'm pleased to tell you, and largely as a discussion that we had there, the WHO is today supporting a program for several thousand rural health centers to be able to access reliable power and to change the health status of people in rural areas. So real impacts happening. We had an expert on hydrogen. Those of you who follow the energy debate today and the decarbonization debate will know that hydrogen is going to be a major part of our energy mix in the coming decade or more. Investments are happening now. Some of the leaders of thinking around innovation and technologies on hydrogen were part of our council. We have been involved in discussions with private sector since, working with companies that are building electrolyzers, reducing the cost of electrolyzers, making the capacity for green hydrogen a reality for the future. This is happening. This is not something should happen, it's already happening. And we saw this also in our discussion with those who were involved in the electric vehicle and battery part in our discussion. And as a result of that, we've been engaged with a lot of companies that are pioneering on EVs. We are poised today for a boom in EV sales. This is now the largest sales in the largest markets in the world, portion going to electric vehicles. And the cost and innovation around battery design has come down substantially. And we discussed renewables and grid infrastructure. So a lot of the discussion that happened 2 years ago, we couldn't imagine would have had the impact that it did today, and for it to enter the mainstream of energy and the future of energy.
Thank you, Doctor. So if I can move to Her Excellency, Dr. Aisha bin Bishr. Can you shed some light on the multiple initiatives that Global Council 11 has launched, whether on the national or the global level?
Sure, Malik. Our SDG 11 Global Council, in its first phase, has formulated and published a concise, pragmatic, and customizable high-level framework for the implementation of SDG 11 by cities. The framework has 4 simple steps and also incorporates various enablers for successful implementation of SDG 11 in cities. The framework is now available in our SDG 11 Council website, www.sdg11gc.com, for cities to download and utilize in their SDG 11 implementations. And many city managers found this very helpful because it's a simple framework and straightforward. And in our council's second phase of work, from late 2019 till now, we have identified and commenced work on 4 targeted action items. The first action item, titled Cities Twinning Program, entails matching developed and aspiring cities to encourage voluntary exchange of information and knowledge pertaining to specific urban topics. Certain cities tend to exceed in particular areas of sustainability and implement successful solutions. So this program allows such cities which demonstrate success to help other aspiring cities by providing them with ideas and high-level support where needed. The second action item titled City Solutions Repository, entails sharing successful solutions and best practice implementations among cities which move the needle in achieving SDG 11 targets. We aim to work closely with UN Habitat and help enrich their global best practices platform by bringing open and agile smart cities, OASCs, and other cities' urban best practices to it. The third action item is a novel idea to create a financial accelerator for cities, which we have called Financialerator. And we know that financing such solutions is so difficult for those aspiring cities. It aims to help cities formulate their SDG 11 related urban ambitions and funding requirements in a structured manner to facilitate and ease the process of obtaining finance. We aim to build this, the world first virtual Financialerator, and pilot it during the Expo, inshallah, in Dubai next October 2021. Last but not least, we are also planning to conduct a post-COVID-19 SDG 11 implementation virtual forum later this year, within the next 2 or 3 weeks, and invite thought leaders, decision makers, thinkers, practitioners, various UN agencies, and our council members to discuss the SDG 11 landscape in our new reality. As an output, our council aims to publish a City Insights report highlighting the new challenges for SDG 11 in a post-COVID-19 world. We hope this will help cities to identify and also address their challenges in a changing world. I'd like to reiterate that all our action items are implemented through strong global partnership capitalizing on existing global network and institutions. We are very well aware of the urgency of SDGs, and strong partnerships are critical for that.
Thank you, Dr. Aisha. Moving back to Dr. Adnan, how did the COVID-19 inspire cities to cater for providing affordable, sustainable energy for all?
Well, you know, I think that the twin shocks of the COVID pandemic, together with the worsening trends of climate change that we are seeing today, has really forced a rethinking of many of the policy frameworks that we have for energy, for sustainability, for management of cities. And I think that the mantra now has become that as we recover from these crises, we need to build back better, build back better. And building back better in as far as cities and energy is concerned, I think that there are 3 key areas where we're going to have to focus. One is that the future of energy for cities is going to be much more decentralized. It's going to be much more digitalized, and digitalization and AI are going to play an increasing part in virtually every aspect of development of energy, and particularly of the management of cities. And decarbonization is going to become a premier focus of how do we achieve an energy future that doesn't take us to above 1.5 degrees centigrade climate change warming. So this is a huge challenge, but what we are seeing are so many encouraging shoots. As far as energy and technology are concerned, we know that the future of energy is going to become increasingly electric. Electricity is going to become a principal energy carrier in the future. That a large part of this electricity is going to be renewables, that renewables are now the cheapest source of power in the world. And by 2025, or before, in my view, 2025, we will have the majority of share in power generation coming from renewables, so leading to a decarbonized source. I think the whole issue of transportation within cities and movement of people within cities will become a critical issue. So electrification of transport, autonomous mobility, management of zones for transportation are becoming increasingly important to how cities of the future will function. And I think the encouraging thing there is that we are seeing that the cost of this is decreasing exponentially, and that cities will have to become smart. We will have to have smart infrastructure. We will have to digitalize the various components that make up a city. Productive elements, residential elements, transportation elements will become increasingly digitalized. We have huge advances in the application of AI and learning algorithms and how to manage these various parts of urban development. And we're seeing now that as digitalization increases, the importance of efficiency comes to the fore. Efficient buildings, energy efficient transportation. And there are many cities that are now beginning to pioneer these. I visited, for example, the Singapore Smart Port, probably one of the biggest ports in the world, which is being totally digitalized with autonomous loading, unloading, and smart meters installed throughout the port, with intelligent systems managing in a much more efficient way the traffic. And I think that this is really going to be at the center of how we manage the cities of the future. The good news is that it's not necessarily more expensive. In fact, it's economically advantageous to move in this direction. There's a perception in some circles that digitalization is only for the rich. It's not. If we see how innovation has happened, for example, in a number of African countries today, in my country, in Kenya, we were pioneers in fintech. The M-Pesa app, which became the precursor for all the money transfer apps that you see around the world, was developed in Kenya by a Kenyan young entrepreneur. If we can, with mobile telephony, with the application of the internet, do all of these things in developing countries, we can leapfrog the polluting and inefficient structure of cities of the past and move into a new future for cities. And I think this is the great hope that we have. Thank you.
Dr. Adnan, if you don't mind, if I want to ask you as well a question, where do you think, or how do you evaluate the UAE when it comes to SDG 7? What more can be done further until we arrive to the year 2030, the year where hopefully the world will perform far better when it comes to the global agenda?
Well, it's a huge challenge, but the good news about the UAE, and I had the privilege of living here for some years, is that it's a very foresighted view of how the country can look in the future. It's a very foresighted view and a unique view for an oil-producing country that has become wealthy as a result of oil to look at a post-oil future. This is a very, very encouraging sign. And I think that, for me, the greatest achievements have been, one, the emphasis the leadership has had on educating its youth. You see remarkably well-educated, confident young people looking at their future with great anticipation. And the second is that the application of the leading edge technologies around the world coming into the UAE market is making a huge difference. The UAE has, some of the most innovative solar projects in the world. Some of the largest solar farms in the world are here in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi. And that's in an oil-producing country because they know that the future is going to be different. I think that there's still much more investment required in skilling an adequate workforce that can manage a digitalized future in the way that the ambition is, because it's a huge ambition. You need the infrastructure to make it happen. You need the ecosystem of people and institutions and capabilities to make it happen. But I think it is going in an extremely exciting direction. And the UAE, in my view, is one of the pioneers in this endeavor.
Thank you for great insights, Dr. Adnan. Dr. Aisha, I'm very interested really to know about the Financial Accelerators initiative that the Global Council on SDG 11 has been working on. Are there any of the cities here in the UAE that are going to be part of it, or even in the region?
We hope actually that some of the cities in our region and also in Africa to utilize such a tool. And that's why we will be launching it during the Expo 2021, wherein it will be a great platform to meet other cities and other nations and showcase to them how such a tool can accelerate implementing SDG 11 goals. As you know, Malik, the most difficult part for cities is to get such kind of financing tools to their projects, especially infrastructure projects. And we hope that this tool will allow them to accelerate such kind of implementation.
Thank you, Doctor. And so, Your Excellency, since we're coming close to ending the session, I'd like to ask you, how would you reflect on your journey while working on the Global Council's initiatives on SDGs? So, Dr. Adnan, if I may hear from you.
It was fascinating because, you know, it started in the World Government Summit, which is a collection of some of the most innovative thinkers around the world on all manner of things, from autonomous driving to the future of energy, to the future of education, to how cities would look in the future. And to cull from that ecosystem a group of people focusing on energy in that broader context was very exciting, because we got people who were talking 2 years ago about things that we are beginning to see happening now, people with the foresight and ideas. So it's been a fascinating journey, and I'd like to congratulate the leadership and my friend Abdullah Luta. I don't know if he's listening, but he did a great job in bringing all of this together. But it was really a seedbed for thinking, for innovation, and I was very excited to be part of it, and I wish you the best for the future.
Thank you, Dr. Adnan. Your Excellency, Dr. Aisha.
Same to me, wallahi, Malik. When they nominated me for this council, I was a bit hesitate how I can formalize this council, but it was so refreshing to see how much people just jumped to help and support and bringing formatting the council and bringing all these ideas together. In the last 2 years, I met amazing people who made this council a reality. And again, I thank UAE leadership for bringing up such kind of initiative to support a global great goals.
Thank you both for such a great session. Thank you for the insights. It's been such a pleasure to have you here with us.